So we're gonna make some braised lamb shanks from that lamb we cut the other day. And we're gonna use several things in a basic braise. We're not doing anything special. We have mirepoix, a little sachet, some tomatoes. We have our good stock, which you can see here, nice and gelatinous. This is a good thick stock from all of that lamb bone. Then we have the shanks themselves. We're going to use some red wine, a little oil, and we're going to start searing these shanks. So we don't need a lot of oil, just a little bit there. Get things heated up. We don't even have to really season these. We're going to season the liquid so they'll get enough seasoning through the cooking process. Also over here, I'm going to start by heating up some butter. We're going to make a roux for thickening our sauce. So that's our flour, that's our butter. And we're going to sear these shanks. We have a pot that's big enough for all of them. It's something that I have a good lid for. We also have enough room, barely, for these 4 shanks. So 2 came from the hind saddle and 2 came from the fore saddle. Hind saddle are going to be the slightly smaller one. Fore saddle slightly larger. And the fore saddle, fore shank is the best shank for braising. So I'm going to let these brown a little bit. Not even worry about them too much, just listen. And in the meantime, I can focus on my roux over here. So we'll melt down some butter here. It's okay to cook off a little bit of the moisture in this because it's better to have clarified butter making roux. But if you evaporate out that moisture without browning anything, you're probably going to be just fine, no big deal. A little bit of moisture is not going to make a huge difference. We have 4 ounces of butter and I got 4 ounces of flour by weight. Watch the flour video weighing and you'll see the theory behind all of that. Okay, we'll work all this into the butter. Should be looking like wet sand by the time we're done. Okay, there you go. Look at that. Nice. And we're going to turn the heat down a little bit, cook more slowly until this starts to brown. We'll make brown roux for a brown sauce. The roux after 3 or 4 minutes is a white roux, and then we can cook until it looks peanut buttery. That's a pale roux, and then when it gets some good brown color like this, then we're good. Okay, these are nice and brown. I'm on high over here, so as high as my fire can get. So I'm going to rotate just a little turn. Sometimes you lean them up against each other, that helps. Now we get the next side, and maybe I turn the heat down a little bit because it's going a little fast. It's a little loud, rambunctious, which is good. So turn it down to a medium heat and let them go. You can see how thick this roux is. Kind of dry. That's just fine for a darker roux because they're going to start breaking down a little bit here as we go. You see little bits of browning on the sides. Make sure you stir it all in there. And this is on pretty low fire. So just take your time on the roux, no hurries. Try to go too fast, you'll end up burning. Okay, we're going to rotate these shanks again. Keep going in the same direction. You won't repeat or over brown one edge. One more side here, we'll just keep turning. Some sides you have little areas where they kind of lift up down there, so they're not going to burn or brown very nicely. But at least you'll have some color on it. A little bit always helps. You see this roux starting to brown again a little bit. So when it does, make sure you're stirring. You don't get too carried away in any one spot. So this is now like a pale roux, almost peanut butter color. So this could be used for veloutés and whatnot. We don't get too dark yet, but we're going to a brown roux, and you can see it starting to soften up here a little bit. Okay, our shanks are about done too. So we're gonna turn the heat way down for a minute, take the shanks out. Oh, nice and brown all the way around. Well, that side could use one more. This one looks good. Come on, baby. Okay, while things are really hot there, we'll go ahead and start caramelizing the mirepoix. And we'll do onions and carrots first. They have more sugar, so the celery doesn't brown very good. I mentioned that before. So that's a nice brown roux at this point. It'll continue to cook a little bit, so if I want to cool it down, it's a good idea. Take it off the stove, put it somewhere cool. Okay, good. Good, good, good. You can see some of this stuff starting to brown, but I want to get it nice and brown before I turn it. So just let it go. Don't be too anxious to cook. Stir that one to help it cool it down. Okay, that one's starting to brown nicely. So give it a good stir and let it brown some more. So we have some good color developing on those right there. Stir them around, get one more color across the areas, and then we'll start adding some of our other ingredients. Yeah, this gets to like 350 degrees. Splash that on you and it burns like hot oil. It's nasty. Those are some of the worst burns in the kitchen. Okay, so we'll put the celery in now. We can add our sachet, some garlic, a bit of peppercorns, stir all that in, let it toast for a second or two. Not too long. And then add your tomatoes. We'll turn the heat down at this point a little bit. So that almost deglazes the pan a little bit. Now we'll continue to keep the heat fairly high to evaporate moisture. and deglaze, get away all of this brown stuff off the bottom of the pan. All that moisture, see that? Takes it all away. Keep it stirred up. Stir stick is flat, so that's nice. It helps. So this is starting to brown a little bit here on the bottom, so make sure we stir it around. We can continue to deglaze a couple times using just the tomatoes. When they start drying up though, things are going to start getting carried away. Have some wine ready to go, or stock. You can use stock for deglazing as well. Any liquid works. Beer, juice, whatever you got. So this one's starting to brown a little bit again. You can see all of this stuff down here. Stir up the tomatoes, see if we can get it to go away. It's a little dry, starting to dry up in there. So now we really got to watch things. Don't let it get carried away. Okay, so that's pretty good. We can go ahead and reduce this now. You can see we're starting to get stuff off the bottom we can't get off, so we'll add more moisture. Tomatoes took a little bit of color on, so it always makes them taste better. No, not a lot of wine, that's just a little bit. The whole bottle would be just great, but I gotta save a glass for later. Make sure all of the glaze is released from the bottom of the pan. When it's nice and smooth and silver, you're good to go to the next step, which is we're going to put in the shanks. So perfect size pan for that amount of meat. We would prefer to keep them all in one layer. Any juice that holds back here, go ahead and add it. Once we've cooked the wine off, we can then add stock. And we're going to add this nice lamb stock that we made the other day. So I'll let it reduce here for a second. Make sure it doesn't start to caramelize too much again. And we'll add the stock. Okay, this is starting to look a little bit thicker, starting to reduce down. So we'll add the stock in. All the alcohol should be cooked off at that point. And we're going to add enough stock to barely cover these shanks. Don't cover all the way. And then give it a good stir. We then have our roux here that's cooled, so I probably had enough roux to cover all of this liquid, so I don't need everything. I'm only going to add a little bit at a time right here in the middle. Try to stir that roux in all at one time right there. Then move around, go to an area that's not thickened, take a little bit more, stir it in. Okay, now we're going to bring this up to a boil. Make sure we stir the bottom so we don't stick as it comes to the boil. When it comes to the boil, it's going to turn down really low, and then we'll cover it, and then we'll put it away for a while in the oven. We'll set the oven here at 300 degrees. Make sure there's plenty of room to get a pot in there. Okay, with a lid. And that take you about as long as it will to boil this to preheat. So when these lamb shanks are done, we'll probably serve them with a nice grainy side dish, either I made a tabbouleh or farro salad that's very much like parsley, garlic, lemon, olive oil, some citrus in there. So a basic tabbouleh made with whole grains, and we'll serve this together with a little bit of sauce. Be very good. Once it comes to a boil, we're going to turn it down. Sorry, we have the fan running there for a while. Put a lid on it. Make sure it's boiling before you put the lid on. This will save you lots of time. It'll start cooking immediately in the oven. Where if you don't bring it to a boil, it's going to take you a half hour, 40 minutes just to come to the boil. So then that is moving this way. Okay, and this, we could set a timer for 2 hours. We'll rotate it once during that time. Okay, we've been a little more than an hour here. So we'll take a look and see how our simmering's going along. Nice and mellow. The bones are starting to poke out. It's a good idea to turn the meat here so that all sides cook evenly. You can see the sauce is not over thick. Nice consistency. If it's too thick at this point, add a little stock, and then we put the lid back on, and we go for another hour. And then also you can see we're helping local restaurants stay in business. Yes, we are. That'll be a couple days worth of grub for us. Okay, so we're finishing up here. This is about 2.5 hours. Okay, these look like they want to start falling off the bone. That's the idea. So forks pushed into them are very easy to come back out again. So this is about ready. All we have to do is check the sauce. We'll have to strain it and season, salt, and adjust anything else that needs to be adjusted there. It smells good. Lamby. Yeah, consistency is good. It needs some salt. We haven't really added much of that. Be careful stirring it around because you don't want to knock the meat off the bones. And then this will be stirred up. We want to handle those carefully. So that could probably use a little reduction. We only need enough for 4. So we'll put this on when we reheat these and reduce it down a little bit. Don't add too much salt now because we don't want to get it too salty. And we have braised shanks. We'll finish these up probably with a little bit of some parsley and breadcrumbs, garlic and citrus. And this will be finished. Voila, braised shanks. You can do this with all kinds of tougher meats like short ribs and hocks and crosscut shanks, ossobuco, all kinds of stuff. Okay, we're gonna make kind of a obscure topping. This would be for the lamb that we're gonna do, the shanks. And we're gonna use a couple ingredients that I've prepped on this board here. Some microplane zest, some very finely mashed garlic, finely mashed anchovy, some chopped parsley, and then I'm going to take a piece of toast and grate it. I want crumbs. I'm looking for breadcrumbs. Okay, a little bit of breadcrumb here. So what we're going to do is mix all these together with a little olive oil in a bowl. Garlic, anchovy, lemon. Put in a bit of oil. Mix that all up. Put in the parsley. Load it up with breadcrumb. This would be good with a little splash of pepper. Make sure it stays a little bit moist. If it's too dry, just add a little bit more oil. Should be something like a graham cracker crust, almost. And that is the gremolata. And that will be the topping for these shanks. We have a little whole wheat here. It's like a tabbouleh. We're just going to heat it up. Garlic, olive oil, parsley. If it starts sticking a little bit, give it a little water, not much. That'll help heat it up. It's almost like barley, but this is whole wheat. This one I know needs a little pinch of salt. And then here we have the reheated shanks. We're going to take a shank and we're going to plate it, put it with some of this farro, and we'll have ourselves a little garnish on top, ready to go. I checked the sauce earlier for salt and pepper, and it is very flavorful, so it doesn't need a lot there. Make sure you get plenty of sauce. It's at least 2 ounces of sauce for a braised item, so don't be shy. And then we'll put the gremolata on top. And a little garnish. And there you have braised lamb shanks with the farro tabbouleh and some braising liquid.